The 5 love languages will ruin your relationship.
If you ask somebody what's your love language and they say gifts, you're like, got it.
Whatever your love language is, you tend to speak to others in your own love language.
Some of your own toxic traits are based off of your personal love language.
So if my love language is receiving gifts, then that makes me a compulsive shopper. This book was written in 1992, and since then has become perhaps the single most popular way that people identify with their relational needs. And what if I told you that the entire premise of the love languages is faulty? Now, I'm not saying it's entirely useless, but it's not the place to start when it comes to nurturing a great relationship. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you that it's too simplistic, doesn't address many root causes of issues in relationships, and in fact, is an overemphasis on someone's love language, makes them more narcissistic, it limits their perspective on relationships, and places attention on the wrong areas to fix with your partner when things are falling apart. So in this video, I will cover the reasons why love languages are limiting your ability to fix your relationship and where you should put your energy instead in order to build your dream partnership. Now, where did love languages even come from? Well, back in 1993, a counselor named Gary Chapman noticed that couples would express their love to each other, but still not feel loved.
And the other person would say, I don't understand that. I do this and this and this. Why would you not feel loved? And I knew people were sincere, but they were missing each other. In their mind, they were expressing love in a meaningful way, but it wasn't connecting with the other person.
He went on to categorize 5 unique styles of love that we either give or receive in romantic partnerships. They're quality time, words of affirmation, giving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. And at last count, over 20 million copies have been sold worldwide since 1993. But with that much widespread popularity, do they really help people either perceive or communicate love more effectively? Even though Dr. Chapman's book came out in 1992, it took over 24 years for the first scientific study to prove its validity in the model. Called Walking the Walk and Talking the Talk, Love Languages, Self-Regulation, and Relationship Satisfaction. The researchers found that either understanding a romantic partner's love language or having the same one as them both had no impact on relationship satisfaction. There was 3 more follow-up studies you can see right here that showed that knowing your partner's love language or them knowing yours had no positive effect on how you two perceive love or your relationship satisfaction. So why do we latch onto ideas like this with no proof in their validity? When it comes to something as complicated as love and relationships, we tend to look for simple explanations for our lack of happiness. For example, you being overweight or not in your best shape, it could be because just your food, but also it could be because your sleep patterns, or maybe your environment, or maybe how much stress you have from your work. There's a number of factors, but we always latch onto the most simplest explanation. Someone not having enough money simply could be because they're not getting paid enough per hour, or maybe they lack the internal belief that they deserve that much money. Maybe it's their spending habits. You see, not everything is just so linear in its thinking, but our brain wants to do this. And in psychology, it's called the oversimplification bias. And look, it's natural for our brain to do this. No one wants to hear that having a thriving and long-lasting relationship, it takes you understanding your trauma, understanding their relational patterns, understanding the interplay of communication, understanding so many things like attachment theory and everything else I talk about on this channel. It's not easy, but it is the right way to go about it if you want it to work. Thinking that you can either fix or have this thriving, beautiful relationship because you know your partner's love language is like saying that you can become a millionaire by learning this one high income skill. It's not the case, my man. Imagine for a second there's this unhappy couple. The wife is emotionally disconnected and unfulfilled in the relationship. So she starts looking online and finds Dr. Chapman's book. She gets it immediately, shuffles through it. She slams it on her husband's desk one night. She says, "You need to figure this out and learn how to love me." The husband picks it up, curiously starts reading through it, and then light bulb. He says, "Oh my God, she loves physical touch and gift giving. This makes so much sense in the course of our relationship. I know what to do." So the next day, the husband comes home with all these gifts and offers his wife a massage coupon. Problem solved. Relationship is gonna be happy, right? Well, if you're a guy listening to this, you're probably laughing and rolling your eyes. When a woman is unsatisfied and emotionally disconnected from a man, there is no way in hell would have to freeze over for you to just give acts of love and make everything be okay. But why? I want you to think that a relationship is this magical meal, and love is just the spice. You see, too much of it and at the wrong time can actually make it worse. Spice is one of the last things you add to the relationship. I even talk about this in my 5 stages of relationship recovery, that giving love and expressing love to your partner when things are falling apart is the 5th and final stage. And this is what I struggled with as a couples therapist, because in my schooling, my master's degree, they didn't really teach this. We were just taught in traditional counseling that when things are falling apart, learn to give that person love, learn to communicate. But there are so many sub layers that just aren't understood through evolutionary psychology that I learned after graduate school that actually make a relationship work. A woman cannot love a man that she isn't attracted to and she doesn't respect first. Those are the foundational building blocks that actually come before love. Now, men establish that attraction, admiration, appreciation, and respect through polarity, healthy masculinity. And most of the men I work with, they've become complacent, needy. The wife has taken the masculine role, being a leader, making decisions. And so she's looking at her husband, she's saying, I just can't rely on him. He can't protect me, he can't provide for me, let alone love him. That's so far out of it. She says, yeah, I'm no longer in love with him, but the first thing that was lost was this spark of attraction and respect. So no matter how many gifts you give her, how much time you come home early from work, how much you try to give her massages, or whatever the case may be, it is not gonna work if this foundation isn't fixed first. Dr. Gabor Mate is an addiction specialist, and he wrote the book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. It is the best book on addiction. Not only that, one of the best books ever I read on personal psychology and development. In it, I remember him talking about a specific study where he mentioned the word attunement.
When a baby's crying, you don't say to a 2-day-old baby, stop crying. You think you're suffering? What about the starving children in India? You know? When a baby cries, we go, aw, aw. What are we saying when we say, we're saying, kid, I get that you're having a hard time right now, and I share that with you. But you know what? It's going to be okay. That's what attunement is. What I'm saying is when children don't get attuned with, that also hurts them. They get the sense of not being understood, something wrong with them.
I define attunement as engaged interplay, or your ability when you're with another person and you're so just connected to them, you're not thinking of anything, you're not in your head, you are just there. You are just completely you and them, almost like one consciousness. Now let's take this idea of attunement and apply it to the couple that we were talking about before. Let's say the wife's love languages now were quality time and words of affirmation. So the husband gets the bright idea, you know what, I'm gonna start to come home earlier from work to show her that I'm around more. And I'm gonna write her all these love letters and tell her how much she feels. And then one day in session with her therapist, the wife even asks, hey, yes, she asked the husband, she goes, tell me how your wife makes you feel. And he says, well, I mean, she makes the best rice pilaf ever and pumpkin pie, and she's really nice. And when she's happy, she makes me feel really good. And she's hot. Both the wife and the therapist would use girl code to look at each other and telepathically say, is that it? Now, despite the husband's best efforts to make the wife feel loved with her love languages of saying the right words and coming home earlier on time, how is it possible that his wife would still feel unloved? This is where the puzzle piece of attunement comes in. You see, with a lot of guys that I personally work with, when they come home earlier, they're still distracted on their phone or they're watching TV, or they're just following around their wife too much where it seems needy. And most times as men, we don't possess the verbal acumen to really state how we feel with a woman with our words. At least some guys do. I mean, it's not like we're gonna just give out some prose and some poem like, you are the light of my life. When I first saw you in that first day, your eyes twinkled like a million stars, and that collapsed my heart and it fell apart. And in that moment, I felt like nothing and everything at the same time. And you get the point. Overall, the point is that it's not just the love that you give, but how you give it. Every act of love must have attunement connected to it. Because a woman with quality time, she'd rather have 10 minutes of your undivided attention, just focusing on her when she loves you, than 3 to 4 hours of you scattered on your phone, distracted from work and other things. Now look, I'm not saying that the love languages aren't helpful to some capacity. They do give us a framework for really putting consciousness and awareness on how we want to receive love and how we express that love to other people. It's just that you should not oversimplify something as complicated as relationships and love down to 5 categories of giving and receiving that love. If you want a relationship that thrives and lasts a test of time for the rest of your life, you have to understand your personal psychology, your trauma, interplay dynamics, attachment theory, all these different concepts that I teach that other specialists do teach. As an example of another limiting belief or another thing that you can categorize yourself on that a lot of people really misuse is attachment styles. Now I have a whole video right here on how attachment styles are BS. I highly suggest you check it out if you think you have a specific attachment style or your wife or husband does. And if you like the video like this where I'm dismantling other videos, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.